captured as part of this recording. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land, which now comprises the municipality of Indigo Shire. Pay respect to their elders past and present, celebrate and respect their continuing culture and acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Item 3, do we have any apologies or leave of absence?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest? Item 5, community and council achievements. No. Do we have any condolences? No. Confirmation of the minutes of previous meetings. The recommendation is that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 22nd of February 2022, as published on the council's website, be confirmed. Would somebody like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Shepherd. Would anybody like to speak to the motion? Councillor Price. Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Do we have any business arising from the previous minutes?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Item 8, the governance rules currently requires the questioner or their representative in open forum to be present in the meeting. Given the meeting is being held without opportunity of a public gallery to attend in person, it is proposed that standing orders be suspended to dispense with this requirement. The chair read any questions put to the meeting without the questioner being present. The current requirement for questions to be received by council by no later than 5 p.m. would remain unchanged. The recommendation is the council that standing orders be suspended to allow the questions to be read by the chair without the questioner being present. Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Tysell. Is anybody against the motion? I'll now find the questions. Okay. The first question is from Mr. Jeffrey Palmer. My question relates to the council's use of consultants. Will council at its next meeting report to ratepayers on the number of projects on which consultants have been employed, providing a description of each project and the cost of each consultancy engagement for both the current and the 2020-2021 financial years, with reference to the outcome of the consultancy, be it a report or other document, the director or department responsible for the project, and the present status of the consultancy, that is, whether the consultancy has been completed, is current or is ongoing. To avoid unnecessary delay or work in completing the report, I can be contacted to discuss any part of this request that may not be clear or which may require clarifications. The definition of what precisely is a consultant is one matter that needs clear definition and agreed understanding. CEO.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question, Jeffrey. I think I touched on the end about definition of consultant. Council uses a range of resources to deliver its services as well as projects, and those resources are made up of staff, materials, contractors, consultants, and a whole range of inputs. And we do regularly report back to council on delivery of service, the cost of those services on projects and the like. Contractors or consultants can be used interchangeably with staff. So I've got a lot of consultants that do or contractors that they do all sorts of things. You know, sometimes we'll use staff, sometimes we use contractors and staff aren't available. They're often used when we don't have the skills, or we may have a function that is used temporarily. So you don't hire staff full time, you don't have work for them. So you have your staff numbers as low as possible to deal with the core business, and then we'll hire contractors to do jobs that they can't do, and we'll top them up with contractors or consultants. So they're used widely and they're used wisely. Now, this request involves a whole new sort of layer of reporting, and I don't propose to to introduce that extra layer of reporting and provide this information specifically as described here. But I would note that a lot of information is already being provided, and this is over and above that. So there are some times where perhaps a larger project is, and I'll say strategy, for example, is performed by a consultant for the most part. So in those cases, we do have reports to council whereby, Caravan Park strategy, for example, just one example where we hire consultants to help us work through those. Generally, those reports all do come to council, and those reports include financial summaries on them, and those reports include the cost of consultancy. So council is having visibility of the cost of consultancy on the larger strategies that are being worked on by consultants that they have the skills that staff don't have. For the smaller consultancies, they're really doing smaller jobs throughout the Shire, and those costs are really just the normal cost of business. So I don't see the need for another layer of information here, but nor do I have the resources to do that. I've got staff that are quite stretched at the moment, and this would be a distraction to their current work and be over and above what's already been provided, which I think is ample.
The second lot of questions is from Elizabeth Mason, who's the president of the Beechworth Heritage and Historic Society. Question 1. Many Indigo residents and tourist bushwalkers have expressed concern about the popular walking track between Lake Sambal and Lake Kerford, closed off by Parks Victoria. We request clarity re Indigo Shire Council's involvement in the planning of the proposed $2 million Indigo Epic mountain bike trail, apparently set to use this corridor through to the Beechworth Historic Park and beyond. In particular, the impact on the gold mining and Indigenous heritage fabric and ecosystems, equitable sharing of the trail, walking track, and any ongoing costs to Indigo ratepayers for trail maintenance. The Director of Infrastructure, Ian Allett.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks, Elizabeth, for the question. Look, there's a couple of parts to that. The trail has been closed by Parks Victoria, as you seem to be aware, and that's, I suppose the closure is unrelated to the Epic Mountain Bike Trail. But yeah, you are correct in that our planning for the Epic Mountain Bike Trail generally would utilise that same corridor. It doesn't follow the old track exactly in all areas, but yeah, generally utilises the same area. So look, we have been working with Parks Victoria for some time. We're getting, I think we feel quite close to having a tourism lease over that land, and then we get into the detailed design. So look, that's been work in progress for some time to try and get to this point. And we do have a draft lease that we now want to get some legal clarity on before we execute that. So yeah, we're getting quite close to having that. I guess your questions then go on around the impact on the gold mining and Indigenous heritage fabric. I suppose as part of the process that we've had to go through with Parks Vic to get to where we've got to, we've had to undertake native title assessments, a cultural heritage management plan, flora and fauna assessment, and also just a heritage assessment. So there's all sorts of things in that park, that you've alluded to, the gold mining and Indigenous heritage, the ecosystems. I suppose all I can suggest is that they're all fundamental considerations that we'd need through a planning permit and through the lease that we will ultimately take up with Parks Victoria for the use of that land. So hopefully that gives you some confidence that all those things are important and being addressed. And the last point you've got in your question is about the ongoing cost to Indigo ratepayers for trail maintenance. Look, there will be a cost. There is with all infrastructure if we want to maintain it. It's a $2 million asset to build, and we hope that it will be a really significant thing for our economy, and it will require some maintenance, obviously to keep it in check. I don't have a figure on that right now. There has been a previously estimated figure was reported to council, I think in late 2018, but we would hope to be able to share that cost with the community and deliver it cheaper than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Question number 2. As the refurbished Beechworth Railway goods shed has been empty for more than 4 years, with 2 unsuccessful expressions of interest for commercial tenancy, can we now expect the council to support the community's wishes and allow the historic carriage collection in need of urgent relocation to be housed at the shed as the first stage of a tourism development? Mark Florence, Community Development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Elizabeth, for your question. Quite correct that there have been a couple of expressions of interest conducted to try and secure some tenancy of the goods shed, and that tenancy would be in line with the goals of the railway precinct plan that was adopted by council. Those expressions of interest didn't provide sufficient response to proceed with the tenancy, largely due to the prevailing market conditions over the past 2 years, which had a significant impact on business turnover and profitability. So as a result of that, we've paused the process until such time as the market's more conducive to business interest. And when that market is of a more buoyant state, we will look to go out to the market again. So with that intent, the goods shed doesn't provide a long-term option for the carriages. And in fact, the National Trust, who are the owners of the carriages, doesn't see the goods shed as an appropriate venue. So we'll continue to work with BHHS, National Trust and others within the community to find a suitable location for the carriages. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 3. The Ovens and Murray Advertiser on February 25 front page reported the breakdown of the 2-year $680,000 contract originally due for completion in July this year between Indigo Shire Council and the International Design Awarded Arterial Designs of Melbourne for the Kelly Trials project at the Beechworth Courthouse. Since Indigo Ratepayers matched the state government's $500,000 grant, we seek advice as to any required financial obligation by way of compensation by Indigo Shire Council following the breakdown of the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, Elizabeth, thank you for the question. So quite correct that the contract with Arterial Design was terminated in January for a range of reasons. The termination process considered a range of issues, including a final payment. The conditions of the termination release are subject to commercial in confidence and really can't be disclosed as part of that agreement. I will say, though, that the delivery of the project has not been compromised by the termination, and the project will be delivered within the original budget, but will be extended over a slightly longer period of time to accommodate some of the delays that has resulted from the termination. In relation to, I think, another part of the question, that what impact would that termination have on the upkeep of other historic buildings, either in Beechworth or around the Shire. So I can inform that there's no other budgets associated with maintenance of historic buildings has been affected by that termination.
Thank you, Mark. The next lot of questions are from Robin McLeish. Question 1. A question was asked by a golf club member at the 14 December council meeting, which stated, should the Indigo Shire Council continue to mandate off-leash dog walking use of the Beechworth Golf Club leased and owned land? The question was the question not understood by the council directors present at the meeting, or does council have a mandate to permit dog owners to enter private land for dog walking? If this is the case, is the regulation enshrined in government legislation, or is it an Indigo Shire Council local law? Mark Florence, Director, Community Development.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Robin, for your question. So certainly council doesn't have a mandate to allow private land to be used for dog walking. In relation to the Beechworth Golf Club, the golf course area is largely Crown land, and it's also a council declared off-leash dog area, which is gazetted. The use of the Crown land area and leash-free areas permitted subject to various controls and management to allow golf to be played at different times. A slight complication within the Beechworth Golf Club is that a section of the golf course is actually owned by the golf club, and the designation of the club-owned land is often difficult to provide, given the nature of the activity. So it's very difficult to, either fence or define which is the private land and which is not. And that's often difficult for dog owners that are using the area to understand, and that sometimes can cause dog walking activities to actually take place on that private land. But certainly council doesn't have a mandate to allow dog walking on private land.
Thanks, Mark. The next question from Mr. McLeish is, will council publish the suitably redacted budget submissions on the council website or council meeting agenda to ensure that the community is made aware of the issues that have been identified across the Shire? Has the CEO determined that these submissions are confidential or contrary to the public interest? If not, when will they be published? CEO?
Thank you, Robin, for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly, I haven't determined that submissions are confidential. We are in the process at the moment of developing the budget for 22-23 operational level. We will be having workshops with councils very shortly, and we're all leading up to the May council meeting, at which point we'll ask council to consider the draft budget to go out for public consultation if you accept the draft budget. And in developing that budget, we've done a range of consultation. We get input from all sorts of sources. Certainly, in answer to the question, yes, at the May meeting, we will be providing all the details of all the sources we've got, but the results of the survey results we got for the budget input, and that will be all reported in May to councillors and to the public. So we'll all get to see that together.
Thank you, CEO. Back to item number 8. The recommendation is that standing orders be resumed. Somebody like to move that? Move Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Croucher. Is anybody against? Carried. Item 8.1, is there any business arising from the previous minutes? Are there any petitions?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Item 10.1, the recommendation is that council accepts the year-to-date financial report noting the progress against council's Q2 forecast. Somebody like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Tysell, seconded by Councillor Croucher. Councillor Tysell.
I just believe that in really challenging times that the Shire has done a good job in managing it, and that it'll hopefully set us up for the challenges ahead.
Councillor Croucher.
Very similar. We still have a favourable financial position for Q2 forecast, despite some unfavourable variances as seen in individual accounts, lines and service areas.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? You wish to sum up, Councillor Tysell?
Fine.
Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 11.1, the recommendation is that council appoints Councillor Tysell to the Rutherglen Place Plan Steering Committee. Somebody like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Horn, seconded by Councillor Price. Councillor Horn.
Yes, this is a very important committee for Rutherglen and surrounds, and to have someone who's in Indigo North area will be very advantageous to us. Councillor Tysell spends quite a bit of time in Rutherglen and is quite across all the issues and challenges that we face. So, yeah, it's a valuable contribution.
Councillor Price.
I'd echo what Councillor Horn said, and just to be clear with the community, this is one of the committee memberships that Jenny O'Connor was on that we needed to appoint another councillor. So it's good to see the interest from Councillor Tysell to be a part of this process.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horn, do you wish to sum up? Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 12.1, the February Capital Works report. The recommendation is the council notes the February council capital. I'll start that again. Recommendation is the council notes the February capital works report and year-to-date progress in the delivery of the capital works program. Somebody like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Croucher. Seconder. Somebody like to second Councillor Croucher, second Councillor Tyson.
There we are.
Councillor Croucher.
Yeah, well, I've just had a good look at the February works report, and to me it seems they seem to be going along very, very well indeed, and we're getting what we want in the future.
Councillor Tyson.
Yeah, it's currently operating within budget, so I'm quite happy that it progresses along.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? You wish to sum up, Councillor Croucher? Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 12.2, the recommendation is that council commits to funding an additional $75,000 in the 2022-2023 budget to support the Kiowa Multipurpose Pavilion project. 2, awards contract 2021-04202, Kiowa Multipurpose Pavilion to Barton Street Developments Proprietary Limited for the lump sum of $842,552, excluding GST. 3, authorises the CEO to execute the contract documentation. And 4, authorises the CEO the financial delegation to approve contract variations up to a total of 10% of the signed contract value. Somebody like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Croucher. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Horn. Councillor Croucher.
Yes, this is a momentous night as far as I'm concerned for the Kiowa, particularly the Kiowa Multi-Purpose Pavilion. Kiowa District Sporting Fraternity have indeed been waiting for this facility for quite a while. The Kiowa Cricket Club is a proud club and respected in the Wodonga District Association. The club is also very successful in its rarely out of finals, and the Oval itself is regarded as one of the best in the association. And the only thing that's let this club down has been the pavilion, which is at the moment in very, very poor condition. This multi-purpose pavilion will not only serve the cricket club and its surrounds, but also the tennis club, and also has room for development of a ladies cricket team. It will also be useful when there are other events on the Kiowa Memorial Park, like we often have Anzac Day ceremonies and other events there as well. So I'm very, 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 very pleased to support the 4 points in the recommendation, to move the motion to wish the user of this multi-purpose pavilion all the best in the future.
Councillor Horn.
Yes, this is a long-standing project, and it's wonderful seeing it come to fruition. And I think it'll be a wonderful facility for everybody in the surrounding district.
Would anybody else like to speak to this motion? I'd just like to make a comment that this may not have occurred if it wasn't from a federal government grant of $250,000 from the Local Roads and Infrastructure Fund, which was part of the stimulus package in regard to COVID. As I said, $250,000. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Croucher?
No, I think I've said my bit.
Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 13.1, recommendation that the swearing in of councillors, in this case, Councillor Tysell, be noted. I'd just like to say it's a procedural motion that it is a requirement that this is recorded in the minutes of council, whether or not the oath or affirmation was taken at a council meeting. In actual fact, this affirmation was taken last Tuesday afternoon at a briefing meeting. CEO, I don't believe that needs to be voted on. I think it's only for information.
It's a recommendation asked to be noted at the meeting. So that's
somebody like to move that? Moved by councillor Price, seconded by councillor Shepherd. Is anybody against that? Congratulations, councillor Tysell. Carrie.
Could I speak to it? I just like to welcome you to your first meeting, and you've only sworn in last week. So I know you've been here before, but it's a big thing, your first meeting. So congratulations. It's great to have you part of the team.
Thank you very much for your support.
Yeah.
Ditto. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Here, here. Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 13.2. The recommendation is that council receives the attached unconfirmed advisory committee minutes, 2 notes and endorses the comments, recommendations listed below. Somebody like to move that recommendation? Moved by councillor Price, seconded by councillor Croucher. Councillor Price.
No, nothing.
Councillor Croucher.
No, I haven't.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Carried. 13.3, informal meetings of councillors' records. The recommendation is that council accepts the attached informal meetings of councillors' records. Would somebody like to move that recommendation? Councillor Horn, do we have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd, Councillor Horn. Councillor Shepherd, would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Is anybody against the motion? Carried. Item 14, there are no notices of motion. Item 15, are there any council reports? Item 15.1, the Mayor's diary for January. Any questions? Item 16.1 for information, the decisions register. For information, item 17, general business. Councillor Goldsworthy.
A question for the CEO in relation to the advocacy plan. Just wondering if you could detail how things have been progressing for the council action plan, which is at 1.112 of the council plan in relation to the Beechworth pool. That state and federal contribute to funding the development of the pool, wondering how things are progressing with that advocacy.
Theo.
Thanks, councillor. So my recollection, and I can't remember which meeting it was, but we received a report on the feasibility of the Beechworth pool, and I think there was a council resolution at that time to receive that report and ask that the staff include the one of the options in the advocacy plan and to start advocating for that. So we're in the phase at the moment where people are approaching council to ask for our priorities. And I know, for example, in recent times, Alan Haynes' office asked for a listing of our priorities, and we gave them a list of the current ones that were relevant to the federal sphere where the elections be held. So I know that was listed in one of our priorities and put to Alan Haynes, and was picked up in media at the time. So it's in our advocacy plan now. We will invite all of the candidates that run for the election in to attend a briefing if they choose to come along, and we'll certainly use that opportunity to share with every candidate what our priorities are, which will include the Beechworth pool as being on the advocacy list as per the council resolution. So we'll keep taking the opportunity to promote that.
Okay, so sorry, sort of without notice, but on the same page of the advocacy plan, there's also things around access to childcare for kindergarten services.
Yep.
That being included with a similar scope, and also mental health resources for our youth.
I don't believe they were included in those projects that were passed on to Helen, because they were Helen Hayes, which were about large specific spend projects. But the advocacy plan certainly includes those items. And when each of the candidates invited to attend, we'll provide a copy of the advocacy plan in any case. And that includes a range of items, not just those main projects. So mental health, mental health support for young people, and a whole range of things that are in there, so just off the top of my head. So that'll all be included in that.
I gather there's other things going on beyond in the background for some of these things as well. Are we doing more than just giving a list out?
Each of them is different. So that the great thing with the advocacy plan is that it gives staff clear direction on things to advocate for and what's a priority for council. This advocacy plan in particular was linked to the council plan, which was a good inclusion in the last 12 months, where there was clear alignment between council plan priorities and the advocacy plan. We do have staff that move in circles all the time throughout the agencies and so on. So whenever there's an opportunity to promote an ask or a cause, we'll use that plan. Whenever a new funding round is announced, we'll use the plan to inform the grants that we apply for. So I guess just without narratives, I can't list them at the moment, but I know we've secured a range of grants over the last recent times. Some of those in the not just about capital programs, but in soft areas. So that the plan informs those grant applications as well. Gives clear direction to staff, and we'll take those opportunities to make grant applications. I know we've got funding for a number of things in recent times that are on items that are in the advocacy plan, so that informs those as well.
Just got another question on a different subject.
Can I just ask a question about that? A question without notice to the Director of Community Development. You there, Mark?
I am, Mr. Mayor.
Did we receive a grant from the state government regarding youth mental health issues?
In fact, we received a grant through Murray Primary Health Network, which is a federally funded, where we're conducting a 12-month project looking at improving access for young people to mental health services and also improving outcomes for young people and their mental health. So that's tapping into a whole range of different initiatives. We've conducted a range of, community workshops, specific programs that will go for beyond the life of the research project. So yeah, there's quite a bit of work going on, and that funding, close to $200,000, came as a result of some of the work being done in the youth strategy, but also through the council plan.
Thanks, Mark. I received some excellent feedback about that too. So well done to your team.
Very good.
Guys, ready?
My next questions are around our parks and grounds maintenance, specifically around the Beechworth area. I know I drew it to your attention a few weeks ago, but more recently, I'd say well done on getting some of the lawns mowed, but there's still issues around Lake Samble, and I appreciate that on Facebook that issue's been addressed, but just in the lead up to Easter, I'd like to highlight again the importance of presenting the best face for Beechworth. That's the major draw card for a one weekend event for Beechworth.
CEO, do you want that, or?
I was just checking whether there was a question in that or a statement.
I appreciate that staff and in the environment has been difficult to accommodate ongoing maintenance in a timely manner. So
I wouldn't mind addressing it. Then. Sure. Okay. I'll throw to Ian in a sec, because I want to talk a bit more specifically about some of the things around Sample, for example. But you didn't mention Carlisle Cemetery, but I'll take the opportunity to also talk about that. It has been a very unseasonal year in terms of, right throughout summer. It's been quite mild, great conditions for growing weeds, a lot of rain, damp soil staying damp for a long period of time, and the warmth has meant there's been a lot of growth and very unseasonal, and we have struggled to keep up with it. So I do apologise for that, and the staff have done their best to get around as quickly as they can, but it's growing faster than we can cut it in some places. Carlisle Cemetery has come up in particular, and we're disappointed with that. We have got it's suddenly shot up again there, and we have got some crews hopefully getting out there in the next 1 to 2 days to get on top of that as well. There are some complications with Carlisle in that there's places that we can't mow, that where weeds are growing on plots, around plots themselves, and we're not allowed to touch those, but we certainly can do what we can to knock the rest of it down. We usually don't slash because it just keeps growing back. We usually try and pull weeds out and spray them, but it's been hard to keep up with that, with staff really being diverted. Trying to keep up. I can mention too that the floods and the storms meant that a lot of our parks and gardens crew have been doing lots of clean up and tree removal and a whole range of unseasonal things that they've dealt with on top of the growing grass as well. So has been challenging. Not looking for excuses really. It has been that way, and we're doing what we can to get on top of it and to where we can even get contractors come in and go over and above and over budget to try and keep up with it. Conscious that it is, autumn now, the tourism season really picks up now. We know there's a lot of great events in the Shire during the autumn and it's Easter season, so we'll do the best we can to get on top of that.
Thank you.
Do we have any other general business? Councillor Tyson?
Yeah, so I've been approached by some members of the Indigo Creek Fishing Club about there being permanent residents staying at Brooklands Reserve on the Murray River, which is not far, sort of between Barnawater and Howlong. I mean, there's people there that have been there for up to 3 years. There's long drop toilets which go straight into the river. And I was wondering if we could advocate with parks to potentially move them on.
CEO?
Just take that on notice, Mr. Mayor, and we'll follow up and see who we can advocate to. I believe it's not an area that is under our jurisdiction, but we can certainly follow up and see what we can do to forward that to the appropriate agency.
And I believe several of us have been speaking to some residents in Cheltenham regarding the collection of bins after the Cheltenham markets. The markets are on Sunday and bin collection days are on Friday, so the rubbish is quite high, the bins are full, and they're complaining about the smell and the amenity around the lake as they walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I just take that on notice, Councillor? I'm not aware of the bin regime out there and how it ties in with events or markets. I'm not sure.
I think it's more of a, for instance, in Rutherglen, it's a Sunday and a Monday. So that Mondays have been pick up day, so it works quite well. But in Cheltenham, it's the reverse end of the week.
Yeah.
So they're empty when they start, but they're full then for the rest of the week.
Yeah. So I'm not aware off the top of my head what the bin cleaning regime is and how do we get around to every town immediately after there's an event. I'm not sure. I'll get some answers on that.
Yep. And my only other question was regarding the if we could improve the access for the community into, because several people don't know to press the green button when they come into the offices. So why the doors are closed.
Yeah. So with COVID and a number of operational reasons, we needed to roster scarce staff where we could. Our customer service centre does operate down in Ford Street in Beechworth, and that's open since. So that's where we would direct people to go to for now.
But maybe highlight that, because I do see quite a few people, if you're waiting, come up to the doors and don't realise that they're meant to press. They walk away.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've looked at signs to see if we can do better signs there for now.
Yeah.
Is that it, Councillor?
That's it for me. Thank you.
General business, still live in Councillor Horn.
Yes, I have a question for our Community Development Manager, Mark Florence. Mark, I've had several people talk to me about trying to arrange events and difficulties with knowing how to arrange things like rubbish bins and the charges for the halls and things like that. Can you tell me what resources are available to our community members for trying to arrange events?
Yeah, certainly. So any community group that's conducting an event, probably of significant scale that requires support with logistics, whether that's with bins or traffic management or other more significant elements, can make contact with council through my department. So we have community events and community development people that can steer the organisers of events in the right way, and we can provide support where possible and within budget to make sure that they have the support that they need.
So there is practical help and advice available to the people.
Again, I'd just caution that our resources don't extend to all types of events and every event that takes place. Council allocates a certain amount, particularly to some of the larger scale community events like Golden Horseshoes, Yak Folk Festival, Walkabout, all those type of ones. But certainly for the lower levels, we are able to provide some support where appropriate and where resources allow.
All right. One of the queries I did receive was from the RSL trying to organise the Anzac Day event, and they were quite surprised that they had to contribute a great deal more money than they normally have. In fact, I think they've never paid before, or since they had some arrangement they were operating since 1947 or something. So that was a bit of a shock to them.
The CEO will take that, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I take that on notice, Councillor? We're currently toing and froing with those people right as we speak.
I'd just like to add that I've been contacted about that similar thing too. I'm more than happy to speak to with Councillor Horn during the week.
Right.
Do we have any other general business?
Thank you.
Do we have any confidential business? At 19:15, I declare this meeting closed.